Now let's start with our gold work. First, we need to import all the required functions. So for that, let's just first import from PySpark.sql. We will import the functions as f. Then we are going to import delta table for the merge operation. From delta.tables, import delta table. Then we are going to import date time for the correct timestamp. From date time, import date time. And then we are going to import UUID for our pipeline run. We need to assign unique pipeline run ID for that sake. We are going to import this one. Let's just run this first. Now we need to set our catalog here. Here we will state that spark.sql use catalog, and this catalog name we need to mention it here. Once we will use this catalog, we are going to create one schema under this catalog. So for that we will write create schema if not exists, and our schema name would be gold schema. Then we are going to generate unique run ID for our gold execution. So for that sake, I'll have one variable named as gold run ID, and we will use the imported function here. Then we are going to create a timestamp string that will be used in the volume snapshot for the folder path. Okay. So now in this case, what will happen? Once I'll process everything and once my data will be ready in this gold layer, I'm going to save the snapshot of those tables which I'll be creating under this gold layer into my volume. Okay. So let's say suppose if I'll run this table today, then I'll have snapshot of whatever I have ran today in my volume. Then if I'll run tomorrow, if I'll run this pipeline tomorrow, then tomorrow's timestamp, with tomorrow's timestamp, I'll create another, this pipeline will create another snapshot, and that will also get stored under the volume. Okay. So for that sake, I need to create a timestamp string. Okay. So for that, what we can write, we will say run tsstr equal to date time dot utc now, then str ft time as year, month, date, hour, minute, and second. Okay. So with this, we will create a timestamp string that will be used in a volume snapshot folder path. So that folder path that will contain this date also, date and time also at which we have ran our pipeline. Okay. Now we are going to create a run date string. So the snapshot folders are easy to browse by date. Okay. So to make it easier for us to just go through these folders and check on what date, or if for that particular date we need to check that volume, then it would be easier if we name those by date also, right? So for that, what we will do, run date str equal to date time dot utc now dot str ft time, and then year, month, and day. So once we are done with this, we will print our current run ID and current timestamp folder. So let's say first print would be current gold run ID, and variable which we will pass it here is gold run ID. Then again print run timestamp folder, comma. Here variable would be run ts str. Now we will run this cell. So here we can see that our current gold run ID is this one, and our run timestamp folder, it will be named like this. Okay. So next step would be to create control table. Again, we know that how we created control table for bronze and silver. Similarly, we are going to create it for gold too. So quickly write this code, spark.sql. Here we will say create table if not exists. And we are going to create this table under this gold schema. So I'll just copy this schema path. And our table name would be processing control. I think we don't need these inverted commas here. I don't know why I've given that. Then let's just declare column values here. So here first would be layer, then entity name as string, then last processed silver run ID as string, last processed silver run timestamp as timestamp. Then I'll have rows merged as begin. Then I'll have run status as string. Then I'll have gold run ID as string. And lastly, I'll have updated at as timestamp. And this table is going to be a delta table. Now let's quickly run this. Now let's just refresh our catalog. Now you can see that our table has been created under gold schema, and these are the column values. Okay, so now we are done with our step 2. Now we will move ahead with step 3. Now our next step is to create helper functions. So these helper functions are the reusable building blocks for our gold layer. And in gold layer, our goal is to take the latest clean data that is coming from silver. Then we are going to build business level tables such as order analytics and KPIs. Then we are going to merge those results into gold current state tables. And lastly, we will store a control record so that next gold run knows what silver data is already processed. Okay. For that, we will be creating these 3 helper functions. So first helper function will be upsert to gold. With this, we will write the gold business output to delta tables. Then with get last processed silver TS, we will read the gold's last consumed silver watermark. And with upsert gold control, we will save gold's next watermark after a successful run. Okay. So let's start with the first one. The first one will be upsert to gold. So in this helper function, it will perform a delta merge into gold target table. So it is used in the gold, it is used so that gold tables behave like a current state business tables. And if the business key already exists, we are going to update that row. And if a business key is new, then we are simply going to insert it. Okay. So for this, we will pass variables as source data frame. Then we are going to have target table. And also with that, we will have join key. Now here first we will check whether the gold table already exists or not. Okay. So for that, we will apply if condition. If spark dot catalog dot table exist, and here we will pass our target table. Then if our table is already present, now what we will do, we will open the existing target table as delta table so that we will be able to upsert our logic there or upsert our data into that delta table. Okay. So for that, we need to use delta function. Here delta table for name. Under for name, we will pass Spark and our target table. So once we pass these parameters, we need to start with the merging. Okay. For that, we will have DT alias. For the target table, let's say alias would be target. Then dot merge, and we are going to merge our source data frame, and we will have alias for this as source, and here join key would be, we need to match one join key, right, which would be primary key for that respective table. So it needs to be matched, so we will apply equal to function here. So the join key of target table, that needs to be equal to with source join key. And then if our business key already exists, then in that case, we need to update everything, right? So for that, what we will write, when matched, then we need to update all. Okay. And when not matched, then we need to insert all. And then we need to use execute function. So now, once we are done with this if statement, next would be our else part. Okay. So our table, if our table does not exist, that means that probably that table is a new table that we need to insert in this gold layer. Okay. So for in that case, we need to perform, or we need to write incoming data frame as a new delta table. Okay. So for that, what we can say, our data frame is source df. We are going to simply write it with the format of delta, and we are going to save it as table. Okay, so this is how our first helper function looks like. Now let's try to run this. Okay, so now it is successful. Now the next helper function which we will be writing, that is get last processed silver TS. Okay. Now we need to write our second helper function that will return the latest silver timestamp which is already consumed by gold. And we need this function because gold should not rebuild the same silver changes again and again. And it should only process the silver rows that has arrived after the last successful gold run. Okay. So for that, our function name would be get last processed silver TS, and we will be passing entity name. Under this definition, first we need to read the control table which stores the processing metadata for gold runs. Okay. So for that, we will use spark.table, and this table we need to read. Once we read this table, we need to apply filter function because we need to keep the rows only for gold layer, then the current entity that is getting processed. That means that for that respective table name, and for the successful runs for that respective table. So for that, we will be applying this filter function. Here we will be using 3 columns. So the first column name would be layer, that needs to be gold. Then we will apply AND condition. Then our second column would be entity name. That needs to be equal to entity name for which this helper function is running. That means that table name. And then we need to check run status. And this run status needs to be success. So once we apply this filter function, then we need to sort our entries. Okay. So for that, we will use order by. And then we are going to use column updated at, and we will sort it by descending order so that we get the newest record from the control table. And after getting the newest record, like first we will get the data in a descending way, and then we are going to limit it by 1 so that we will only have the newest record for this control table. Once we are done with this, then now we need to bring the result from Spark into Python. So for that, we'll say ctrl.collect. If there are no rows after this collection, that means that gold has never processed this entity before. So in this case, we need to return none to indicate that this is the very first run. So if not rows, then we are going to return none. And if we have rows, then in that case, we need to return the latest silver timestamp for which gold has already processed its data, and gold will use this as its watermark to fetch only new or updated data from the silver layer. Okay. So for that, we will return the rows for the latest record, and the column name would be last processed silver TS. So this is how our second helper function looks like. Now let's run this. Now we are going to write our third helper function, which is upsert gold control. So this helper function will update the gold control table after a successful gold run. So in simple terms, once gold layer finishes the processing of the newest silver changes, we need to save this metadata so the next gold run knows where to continue from. So for that sake, we are writing this function. So here we will be passing entity name, last processed silver TS. We will pass both TS and run ID. And we will also use rows merged. Here we are going to build a one row data frame which will be containing the latest processing metadata. And this row will either update the existing control record or it will create a new one. Okay. So for that, we will have one data frame named as ctrldf. For this, we will use create data frame. Here we will be passing our layer name as gold. Then we will have entity name, last process run ID, run TS, rows merged, success, gold run ID. And here we will have we will use here UTC now to get current UTC time for the audit purpose. For the rows merged, we will use int. We need it in int format. Okay, so now we need to declare our schema here after this. So for this, layer needs to be in string, entity name in string, run ID in string, run TS in timestamp, merged in begint, run status in string, run ID in string, updated at in timestamp. Okay. And once we are done with this, we need to open our gold control table as a delta table. So for that, it would be dt equal to, we'll use delta table for name Spark, and with this we are going to open our processing control table. And then we are going to merge our newest record into this control table. And for this, our matching condition needs to be on two columns. First would be layer and then the entity name. We are going to combine our matching condition for these two columns. Okay, so for that, dt alias, let's say alias would be t. And we are going to merge control df with the alias as s. And then we need to write our matching condition here. And our matching condition would be target layer needs to be equal to source layer and target entity name needs to be equal to source entity name. Okay. If the control row already exists for the entity, then we are going to update the latest gold processing information. Okay. So for that, instead of update all, we will set some parameter in this. For this, set is equal to, we are going to set silver run ID with source last silver run ID. Then silver run timestamp. After this, we will have rows merged. That would be source rows merged. Then run status, run ID, and updated at. And when the control row does not exist, then we are going to insert all the matched rows. So for that, we'll say when not matched, then insert all, and then execute. So this is how our third function looks like. So now let's try to run this. Okay, so now this helper function is good to go. Now the next step is to read changed silver rows only. So this step is the starting point of our gold incremental processing. So here our goal is to find out what silver data gold has already processed in the previous runs. Then we need to read the current silver transformed tables. Then we need to keep only the new or changed silver rows from this gold run. And lastly, we need to count those changed rows so that we can validate that gold is processing incrementally. So in simple words, we can say that gold should not rebuild everything every time, and it should only look at the silver rows that arrived after the last successful gold run. Okay. So for that, first we need to read the latest silver timestamp already processed by gold, and this value will act as gold's watermark. So to read this, we will write the code as last gold ts variable, and we need to call our function get last processed silver ts, and here our entity name would be orders information. So this is going to be our new table. Okay. Now we need to print the latest process silver timestamp so that we can trace gold incremental logic, and this will help us to understand where gold stopped in the previous successful run. Okay. So for that, we will print it as last processed silver timestamp for gold, and here we will pass that variable last gold ts. Now next we need to read the current silver transformed order table. So this table will contain the latest valid current state order records after silver cleaning and validation. Okay. So for that, we will write it as silver orders current is equal to spark dot read dot table, and here we are going to read order transform table from the silver schema. Now we need to read products table. For that, silver products current, and we will be reading our product transform data. And similarly for payments current data, we are going to read payments transformed table. Okay, so once we read all these current tables, now we will apply if condition here. So if gold has never run before, then there is no previous watermark. Okay, in that case, gold treats these full silver transformed dataset as its initial load. So for that, if last gold TS is none, then on the first gold run, every silver orders row is considered changed. Okay, so for that, we will say changed orders equal to silver orders current. Similarly, we will write it for product and payments. Okay, and in else condition, if for this else situation, what will happen? For the incremental gold runs, we will keep only the silver order rows, okay, whose bronze ingestion timestamp is greater than the last gold watermark. And these are the new or changed order rows that gold has not processed yet. So for that, we will say first for the orders, we will say changed orders, and we will use silver orders current dot filter. And in this filter condition, bronze ingested at needs to be greater than last gold TS. Okay, so for this, it needs to be like this. So similarly, we will write it for products and payments. After this, now we need to count how many changed silver order rows are entering into gold in this run. Okay, so this will be useful for the validation and the proofs that gold is processing incrementally. So for that, what we will write, let's say changed orders count is equal to changed orders dot count. And similarly for the products and the payments. Now we are going to print the changed order count so that we can see how many rows gold is working with in this run. Okay. For that, again, we will write print statement for orders, products, and the payments, and we will display the count for those respective tables. It would be changed orders count, products count, and payments count. And this needs to be like this. So now we will run our logic first. Now let's see the output. Now we can see that last processed silver timestamp or gold is none because this is our first initial run. Then number of changed orders, products and records, those are 435, 111 and 391. This is the count from here. Okay, in the silver layer, lastly we saw that how many rows has been merged. Those were 435, 391 and 111. That's the same count that is getting displayed here, which means that this is our very first run, and these many count we have for that respective tables that needs to be changed, okay, or that needs to be worked on in this gold layer. So this is how this step 4 works. Now our step 5 is to find impacted order IDs. So gold is built at order level. So before rebuilding the gold, we need to know that exactly which order IDs were affected by the latest silver changes. Okay. And we need to find this because in gold, we do not want to recompute every order every time. We only want to recompute the orders that were impacted in the current run. So for that, we have three ways. First one would be the order rows itself changed, then the payment linked to that order which has been changed, and the product linked to that order changed. Okay. Now we need to find impacted order IDs. So gold is built at order level. So before rebuilding the gold, we need to know exactly which order IDs were affected by the latest silver changes. And we need to do this because in gold, we do not want to recompute every order every time. So we only want to recompute the orders that were impacted in the current run. So in this case, an order can be impacted in three ways. First, either this order row has changed itself, then the payment linked to this order has been changed, or the product linked to this order has been changed. Okay. So in simple words, we can say that this step will collect all the order IDs that need to be recalculated in this gold layer. So first we will check for orders table. For that, we will write it as impacted from orders equal to changed orders. And here we need to select order ID, and that need to be distinct order ID. Then for the payments, we will check first impacted from payments, changed payments dot select ID or select order ID and the distinct one. So if you remember, orders table and payments table both are linked with each other because the primary key order ID from orders table is getting treated as a foreign key in payments table. Now we need to check for products table. Here products table and orders tables are connected to each other because product ID is a foreign key in products and that is getting treated as a foreign key in the table orders. Okay. So for that, we will write the logic as here we need to join these two tables with the inner join. Okay. So for that, let's say changed products. Let's treat alias as P. Then we are going to apply join condition here. Join, we are going to join this with silver orders current. Let's treat this alias as O. And the condition would be column P dot order ID, not order ID, P dot product ID needs to be equal to with O dot product ID with the inner join. And once we are done with this joining condition, from that join, we need to keep only impacted order values. So for that, we will use select. In this one, we need distinct order IDs. So let's say impacted order IDs equal to impacted from orders dot union impacted from payments and impacted from products, and we need distinct values. Then we are going to print impacted order IDs. And here we are going to display count of impacted order IDs. And then use display function here, display impacted order IDs dot order by order ID. Now let's just check this cell. So here this is the change which we need to do. I'll accept the change and I'll just run again. Now it gives us the output as we have 479 impacted order IDs, and those respective order IDs, those are getting displayed here. So this is how this step 5 works. Now let's move ahead and check step 6. Now in the next step, we are going to build gold delta for impacted orders. Now with that, we know that which order IDs were impacted in the current run. This step, it would build the actual gold dataset only for those impacted orders. And we need to do this because gold is a business layer and it combines the latest valid current state data from silver orders, silver products, and silver payments. So in simple words, this step creates a gold business ready rows that need to be merged into gold table. So for this, we need to keep only those order rows from silver orders whose order ID is present in the impacted order ID set. And this will reduce the gold processing to only affected business keys. Okay. So for that, we will write it as impacted orders is equal to silver orders current. We'll keep alias as O. Then we are going to join it with impacted order IDs with the alias as I. And we are going to match this with key order ID. And we are going to have inner join here. Now we need to start building the gold delta dataset. Okay, so this dataset will contain only the impacted gold rows from the current run. So for that, let's write it as gold delta. Then we will have impacted orders with the alias O. And we are going to join this with silver products current with product ID as key and inner join. Now we need to join the impacted orders with the current silver payments table so that each gold row gets the latest payment attribute. Okay, so for that, we are again going to join this impacted orders with current silver payments table. Okay, so here we will use silver payments current table with alias as let's say py, and here we are going to match this with order ID with the inner join. Then we are going to select only business column that we should be exposed in the gold layer. And these columns are the curated business ready output that downstream user will consume. Okay, so for that we are going to apply this dot select, and from select we will have order ID, customer ID, product ID. Then let's have product name. We'll have product ID from P. Then we will have P dot product name. Then we'll have category name. We can have price too. Let's give this price value as alias product price. Then we can have order status, order amount. We don't need created at. So after this we can have payment ID. Then payment status. Then we can have paid amount. Then after paid amount we can have order date. Then let's say we will have order month. And then lastly we can have order year. Then from the updated at and processed at, for this gold updated TS, okay, it will store the latest timestamp across all three source dimension. So for order it is updated at, for product it's updated at, and for payments it's processed at. Okay, so this will tell us that when the gold row was last affected by the upstream changes. Okay, so for that, let's say we will use greatest function here, and here if call O updated at, P updated at, and payment processed at. And let's first use cast function to change it to the timestamp. And for all this we will use alias as gold update TS. Now once we are done with this, we will use drop duplicates. With order ID, and then we are going to calculate how much of the order amount that has actually been paid. Okay, so for that we will use with column function, and we will name this column as let's say payment completion ratio. f dot when column order amount is greater than 0, and then column, we will divide the columns paid amount divided by order amount. Otherwise, this needs to be 0. Okay. For this, I'll use lit function. Now I'll perform one more aggregation here, and I'll create another column named as payment state. So for this, again I'll use with column function, and the column name would be payment state. Here we are going to derive one business friendly payment state using payment completion ratio. Okay. So this will make the goal table easier for the business user to interpret. For this, I'll write f dot when column order amount is equal to 0. Then the entry would be invalid order amount when payment ratio is equal to payment completion ratio is equal to 0. That means it is unpaid. If it is 1, that means paid. If it is less than 1, that means partially paid. And if it is greater than 1, that means that it is overpaid. Okay. So once we are done with this, we are going to perform one more aggregation here, where we are going to add one column that will store the date only version of gold updated timestamp. So this will be useful for reporting or filtering, or if we are going to do any possible partitioning logic, we are going to apply this partitioning logic, then it will be useful. So for that, we are going to have this column with gold updated date. So for that, we can say that with column gold updated date, and that we will give it as to date. And same, we will have gold run ID we are going to mention here. That will be gold run ID. And once this is done, we will just use print statement to print gold delta rows equal to, we will display our count. Okay. And then we are going to display our gold delta table rows. Now let's try to run this logic first. Name I is not defined. Okay, it needs to be in double inverted commas. Name impacted orders not defined. Okay, it is not orders, it is order. Or maybe we can say orders here. Now let's try to run this. Now it states column variable function with p.products name cannot be resolved. Line 22. I think it's product name. py updated at cannot be resolved. Because it is processed at. Now it states gold delta rows. We have 331 entries with expected columns as gold, order ID, customer ID, product ID, respective name, category, price, order status, amount, payment ID, payment status, paid amount, order date, month, year, gold update timestamp, and it is also showing payment completion ratio for each of them. Then what's the current state for that which we have assigned. Then what's the gold update date here and the gold run ID. Okay. Now the next thing would be to merge this gold current state table. So for that, we will write the function as if gold delta count is greater than 0, then we are going to use our helper function which is upsert to gold with our data frame gold delta, and the table which we need to create here is we are going to create it under gold schema here. Now I'll copy this schema path dot our table name would be orders information and the join key would be order ID. Okay, so now the else condition, if we don't have any count here, then we are going to print as no new record to insert in gold table. Okay, now let's try to run this. Now this run has been successful. Let's check, refresh our catalog. Under the gold schema, now we can see that we have one more table named as orders information. If we'll check how the data looks like. So this is how our orders information table looks like as expected. Now the next step is to create and maintain SCD type 2 history. First we will implement this logic and then I'm going to move forward with the next steps, and lastly at the end we will check how this SCD type functioning, because with all the steps I need to show you how the first run will get displayed, and then we will change any one of the entry and then we'll check how this SCD type 2 table is getting updated. Okay, so for that let's say if not spark dot catalog dot table exists. First, we will create this SCD2 table for the first time in the notebook runs, okay? And if the table history table does not exist yet, then we are going to create an empty delta table for that with the same columns as the gold current state table plus SCD2 tracking columns will have, okay? So for that, let's say if this table does not exist, and this table is going to be our SCD2 table, okay? So the name would be SCD2 here, table name. Obviously, for the first time, we don't have this table under this gold schema. So in the first run, it will go in this if condition and it will create that SCD2 table, okay? For that, to create this table, we will use spark.sql. And here, we'll say create table. This SCD2 table using delta at select star from orders information, but as I have told you, along with star, like along with all the information, we are going to add 3 more columns for valid from TS, valid to TS, and is current flag. So for that, we will use first null as timestamp, as valid from TS, because in the first run, these entries are going to be null. Once we are done with this creation of SCD2 table, and then if we get any table if we get any entry which is updated, then for that we are going to maintain this history. That would be valid from, valid to, and valid from timestamp, valid to timestamp, and is current flag. Okay. As of now, the entries would be null. So valid from is done, to is done, and then we are going to set this is current timestamp as true by default, okay, for the first run. From this table, and the condition would be where 1 is equal to 0. Here I don't need comma, we just need to remove that. Okay, so we are done with the creation of this SCD2 table for the first run. Now we will have if condition here again. We will continue with this SCD2 maintenance if the current gold run is produced. It has already impacted rows, right? If the gold delta table is empty, then we are not going to compare anything for that. So for that, again, we will have if condition. If gold delta count is greater than 0, then we are going to create first one temporary view. So this, we will create this temporary SQL view for the current gold delta, okay? And this makes it easier to use this SQL merge and insert logic for the next steps. So to create that, we will say gold delta dot create or replace temp view for, and our gold temporary view name would be gold delta view. Then for the next step, once we are done with this creation of temporary view, now in the next step we need to check expire old current versions, right? So this merge, now we are going to perform next merge here. So this merge will find out the current SCD2 rows for the same order ID where at least one tracked business column is changed, okay? And if a change is detected, then old row is closed and we will mark this is current flag as false, and then valid to TS field that needs to be set to new gold update timestamp, okay? This means that old version is no longer active after this run. So for that, we are going to apply merge function. So we will mark it as like, we will create it as like spark.sql. And here we will have merge into our SCD2 table using this view as S, and the matching condition would be source order ID and target order ID need to match. And we will have one more condition, and target is current flag needs to be true, okay? So when matched, and now here we are going to write those respective columns, and not first one needs to be order status. Then we will check order amount. Then after order amount, we will check paid amount. Then we will check payment ID. Or if we have any changed or not matching payment category. After category, we will check product name. And then we will check product price. So if any one of the value from these column changes, then we are going to raise SCD2 flag, okay? So here, instead of equal, I'll change this operator with null safe equality function, okay? So that operator looks like this. So this is null safe equality operator, okay? It will compare null values to safely without giving an error or without failing our pipeline. So for that, we are going to replace equal function with this null safe, not equal function, equal operator with this null safe equality operator, okay? So here, if any one of this column value changes, then we are going to merge those values into HCD2 column, and we are going to perform certain changes for that, okay? Because we need to close the earlier value or earlier current entry, and then we need to merge or insert new entry for this, okay? So then once we are done with this, now the next step would be to insert new current version. Okay, so as of now, with the SCD2 function, for the SCD2, we have implemented merge logic just to close the current entry to make it as expired entry. Okay, now we need to insert another row as a current entry. So for that, I think I have done certain mistake here. Okay, so okay, now for the next step, we are going to insert new current version after closing this old version which we have closed with this logic. Now to insert new entry, which would be the active version for that respective order, we'll say spark.sql, and this needs to be in this if condition. So spark.sql, our logic will come here. Here we are going to insert, okay, insert into SAD2 table with select star. Along with that, we need to insert s dot gold updated TS as valid from TS. Then we need to add timestamp to valid to TS, and that needs to be null value. And we need to set is current flag as true. Okay, and this value will come from the view which we have created as gold delta view. Okay, and then we are going to apply left join function on SCD2, and we will check the condition as source of order ID needs to be equal to with target order ID, and also and target is current flag needs to be true. Okay, and where condition, where T order ID is null or not T dot order status with source order status, or the next one would be order amount. Then we will have paid amount. Then we will have payment ID, or category. Then we will have product name, and then we will have price. So this is how this SCD2 needs to function. Now let's check what are the errors which we are getting here. Okay, so here we have missed this logic. So into this merge statement, we need to update is current flag to false, and we need to update valid to TS to gold to TS, because earlier in the original entry its current flag was true because that was the current entry. But now as we are doing this merge and we are closing this entry, that is current needs to set to false. Okay, and we need to update valid to TS, valid to timestamp for the same. So this change we were missing, and here we needed to add one parenthesis here. So that was the change that was expected from our end. So now let's accept this and run it. Again, run the suggestion. Okay, so here there is one more change. Instead of select star, we need to write it as select s dot star, because going forward we are using alias and we are performing left join here. So for that it needs to be s dot star. Okay, so now our SCD2 function has been implemented and our catalog is getting refreshed. So now we can see that we have SCD2 table created for orders information. So if I'll give an idea to you briefly what we have implemented here. So with SCD type 2, we need to maintain the history also. Okay, so let's say suppose for the orders table, okay, my order status that got changed from failed to success. Okay, so now in our orders information under this SCD2 to SCD2 table, I have already, let's say suppose this order ID is 101. Okay, so for this 101, my status is failed here. Okay, valid from the day when it got created. Let's say suppose from 1st of April. Okay, this is from entry, and valid to is null. Okay, because this is active entry. That is why our is current flag is set as true. Okay, now our entry for order ID 101 that has changed from failed to success. Okay, so now what will happen here? With this SCD2 logic, it will again create one more entry. Okay, this is going to be new entry. So here 101 status will get changed to success, and for this existing entry, valid from date will change from 2nd of February to today's date. Okay, let's say suppose this one it will change to March of 13, and this flag needs to be set as false because this is not now our current entry. Okay, and now new entry, this needs to be valid from March 13 to null value because we don't know what's the end date. Okay, and this is current flag needs to be set as true. So this states that this is our new entry and this is our old entry. Our status got changed from failed to success, but with SCD2 logic, we need to maintain history also. Okay, that is the reason why SCD2 has been created. So this is how this old entry will get also stored in our SCD2 table, and also new entry will be there. But here with these changes, we will get to know that okay, so this entry the status was failed till March 13th, and then on March 13th the status got changed to success and it is still active. That means that this status is still into success mode. Okay, so this is how this SCD type 2 functions, and this complete logic we have implemented here. Okay, with this. Now we will check, like we will change any one of the entry for our any one of the order ID. We'll check how it functions. But before this, I'll complete the next steps, because whatever the full run which we are working on, right, for these entries 435, 391, I need to work on that completely till the end, and then we are going to change any one of the entry, because for that the rows that are going to be read with this bronze silver logic, that row count is going to be only one. Now this logic will not function on full run. It will function on only changed value. So for that sake, I'll perform this std type 2 later. Okay. So now let's move ahead with next step. Now in this next step 9, I'm going to create one more table. Okay. So that will be named as category performance. So in that, I'll have category, and for that each respective category, I'll calculate total orders by category. Then the second column would be for total revenue by category. Then third column, I'll create for total paid amount by category. Then the next one would be for payment completion ratio by category. And then payment failure rate for that each category. Okay. So to create that table, let's say first we will check if we have any count under gold delta data frame, because if we don't have any entry, then this doesn't make any sense to work on this table or update this table for the incremental loads. Okay. If the count is greater than 0, then we are going to identify which product categories are impacted in the current gold delta data frame. Okay. And these are the only categories whose aggregation we need into our table. So let's say impacted, we'll create one data frame named as impacted categories. Impacted categories equal to we will have data frame gold delta. From this table, we will select category. And then we are going to filter those entries, and we are going to check if those are not null. And from that, we are going to take only distinct categories. Okay. So once we take these, sorry. Once we take this, we are going to build category level aggregation only for those impacted categories. Okay. So for that, I'm going to create one more data frame named as category performance delta. Here, I'll read the table. Orders performance. Okay. Sorry, orders information. This table I'm going to read. Okay, once I read this table, I'm going to keep only rows that belongs to the impacted categories. Okay, so this will avoid the recomputation of every category at every run. So for that, I'm going to join this with the data frame which we have created here, named as impacted categories, based on categories, and we will have inner join. Once we will have this inner join, then we are going to use group by function, and we are going to group it by category column. Once we do that, we need to compute category level business KPIs, which we have discussed earlier. Okay. So for that, we are going to perform aggregation. So for that, first, for the first aggregation, we are going to count the number of unique orders in the category. So for that, we will apply count distinct by order ID, and we will give alias as total orders. Then next, we need to sum the valid order amount values to calculate category level gross merchandise value. Okay. So for that, let's say f dot sum. In this, we will apply when condition. F dot when our order amount is greater than 0. Then we are going to take that order amount to sum up otherwise it needs to be 0, 0. And we are going to name this column as gross merchandise value. So this is another aggregation. Now we need to perform one more sum here to sum valid paid amount to calculate how much money was actually paid, okay, for that order. So that needs to be written as f dot sum. Now again under this sum statement, we will have when condition f dot when paid amount is greater than 0, then we will consider that paid amount, otherwise it needs to be 0, 0. And alias, we will give it as, let's say maybe total paid amount. I think these are going to be column names, right? So let's put underscore instead of space. So this is our another aggregation. Now let's calculate the average, average of the payment completion ratio to understand the average amount fulfillment level in particular category or in that category. Okay, so for that we need to use average function here. So f dot average, and that needs to be implemented on column payment completion ratio, and we are going to give alias for that as dot alias, and we will name it as average payment completion ratio. Okay, now we are going to calculate now payment failure rate. Okay, so for that what we will do, we will say f dot sum, then under this sum function we will use f dot when our column payment status, is equal to failed, then 1, otherwise it would be 0. Divide by f dot count star. So here we are calculating payment failure rate. For that, we are dividing failed amount rows by total rows in that category. Okay, so for that we have implemented this. If when f column payment status is equal to failed, then we are going to consider that value, otherwise it needs to be 0, and we are going to divide it by total rows in that category. Okay, and we are going to give the alias for this as, let's say, payment failure rate. Now we will be applying upsert to gold helper function here, okay, to merge the category level delta into gold category performance table, and here join key would be category. So here if category already exists, then it will just update its KPI. Otherwise, if the category is new, it will insert that new category. Okay, let's apply first upsert helper function here. Upsert to gold. Then here we will pass our data frame, which is category performance delta, and our table name would be category performance, and here joining key would be category. Okay, so this is how our logic looks like. Now let's try to figure out the error and correct it. Okay, so here there is one extra additional parenthesis here. So let's just accept the change and run it and check if it is working fine or not. Okay, so run is completed. Now we will check if we have newly created table category performance under gold schema. So this is the table which we created under this logic. Now let's try to see how entries looks like here. Select star from this table. So here we can see that we have 3 categories overall: fitness, electronics, and lifestyle. It is showing how many total orders we have for that respective category. Then what's the gross merchandise value for each of these category. Then what's the total paid amount for each of the category? What's the average completion ratio for each one of them? And what's the payment failure rate for each one of them? Okay. So this is how our aggregation for category performance looks like for each of the category. Okay. So this is just for the example. So whatever data cleaning we have done under silver work or business aggregations we are doing under gold work, those are like just for your information. If you feel like this needs to be changed, or if you have any better idea to perform this cleaning and transformation or to apply this business aggregation, it's always good to practice and you can move ahead with that. It's just for the sake of understanding how to apply these business aggregations, data cleaning, and data transformations. I'm just giving you the steps. But again, that this is not necessary that you need to apply the same. If you have any better idea, please go ahead with that and apply for that. And you can implement your own BI dashboards for that too. Okay. Now Now in this next step, we are going to publish our gold snapshot to our volume. So with this step, we will publish our gold outputs into Databricks volume in the form of Parquet files. Okay. If we say like, why do we need this? Because even though gold table already exists in the form of delta tables inside Databricks, many downstream system would prefer consuming data in the form of files. Okay. And it will also help us with sharing the data with external tools. Then we can also it will help us with creation of versioned outputs of the pipeline. Then it will also help us with exporting the data for analytics or ML pipelines. And we can also keep the historical backup for each successful run for the audit purpose. Okay. So here we will be using two types, latest snapshot and timestamped historical snapshot. We are going to implement these two functions. So with the first one, it will create one folder named as latest snapshot in our volume. Okay. So with this latest snapshot, it will always contain the newest version of your gold table. Okay. So every time you run your pipeline successfully, this folder will get overwritten. So let's say suppose I had first run, okay, run one. Then I'll have data from this run one, okay. Then I had second run, okay. Then this this snapshot will override this data from the run one, and it will have new data from the second run, okay. Then again for the third run, it will have new data. It will erase this data and it will have new data from the third run. So this will happen under this latest snapshot, okay, in that folder. And this is useful, we can say, because this is useful for dashboards or BI tools or downstream pipelines that always want to read the most recent data. So for that sake, this latest snapshot folder will be useful. Now we will implement after this the second functionality for timestamped historical snapshot. Okay. So this will create another folder in our volume after this latest times snapshot, and that will be named as historical snapshot. Okay. So this historical snapshot, it will store every successful run separately. So instead of overwriting, we are going to create new folder for each run using that respective run ID and timestamp. Okay. So let's say, for example, uh, let's say suppose, uh, just prefer this structure. Okay. I have this gold snapshots. Okay. Under this gold snapshot, I have orders information table. Okay. This is our one of the gold table. Now under this, let's say suppose I ran my pipeline on 10th of March. Okay. So it will save that run as, let's say, run date, and it will mention that run date, and along with that it will mention that timestamp here. Okay. Let's say suppose at 10 I have run it, then that timestamp will get maintained here. Then let's say next run date I had on 11th of March, then that folder will have that date along with the run timestamp. Okay. Then for the 12th of March, again I'll have another file with that particular date and particular timestamp. Okay. So in this way, it will allow us to trace how the data looked in the past. Okay. And it will be always better or best for the audit pipeline outputs. And we can also recover the previous versions if needed. Okay. So in short, we can say that this latest snapshot, it will always contain the newest gold output. And this historical times snapshot, it will store every pipeline run separately. Okay. So for that, we need to create Databricks volume that will store this published snapshots as gold snapshots. Okay. So if let's start writing for this. So let's write as, first let's create this volume. Okay. So for that, spark.sql, then we will write create volume if not exist, and that volume we will write under this gold schema. Okay, and let's say our volume name would be gold snapshots or gold snapshots volume. Okay, so this is how we are going to create our volume here. Okay, now let's try to run this. So this one is successful. Under the gold schema, now we can see that we have one volume named as gold snapshots vol. Okay, now the next step would be to define the path that always holds the latest gold orders snapshot. Okay, and this folder will always contain the most recent pipeline output. So for that, we will write the code now. Latest orders path equal to, now we need to mention that path. Okay, so this path we are going to give it here, and under this volume, let's say we will create one more folder as gold latest, and under gold latest I'll have orders information folder, because right now under this latest snapshots we are going to have snapshots for both of the table. Okay, order information and category performance. So first this path would be for orders information, and now the next one would be for category path. Okay, again we will mention the same volume path, and here again I'll have folder as gold latest, and in that I'll have another folder named as category performance. Now we need to define timestamp historical snapshot path for every successful gold run, which needs to be preserved. So for that, what I'll do, I'll say historical orders path. This needs to be first, we will mention this volume path here. After this, we will have one more folder as gold snapshots. Under that, we will have another folder as orders information. In this, we will mention run date as run date str slash run ts as run ts str. Now similarly, we will do it for category performance path. So for this, till gold snapshot is fine. Here we need to change it to category performance. Okay, so now once we are done with this, now we need to publish these gold tables to a Parquet snapshot under these volumes. Okay, so for that we will use spark.read.table. First, let's do it for the latest snapshots. So for that, what we will do, spark dot read dot table. Then here, first we need to utilize this orders information table. Okay, this we will write it in the mode of overwrite. Format would be Parquet. And we are going to save this one, latest orders path here. Similarly, we will perform it for latest category path. Here the change would be this table name change. So here our table name would be category performance, and here instead of latest orders we will have latest category path. Okay, so this one is done for the latest snapshots. Similarly, we need to do it for historical snapshots. Okay, so for this I'll just paste this, and instead of latest category, latest order path, we will use historical orders path. Okay, and here instead of latest category path, we will use historical category path. Okay, so this will save our snapshots of those respective tables into that volume. And let's, for our understanding, we are going to print here latest orders path. So we will have 4 print statements, 2 for latest one, 2 for historical ones. Okay, so now let's try to run this cell. So this one is successful. It shows latest order path, category path, orders, historical one, historical for orders and category. Okay, so we can see that we have 2 tables created here. I'll just open this catalog. We saved it under gold schema. Volume we need to check. This one is our volume. So this one is gold latest. Under this, for the latest snapshot, we can see that we have 2 folders created for 2 tables. If I'll open this one, we can see that our data has been saved. Now let's try to check this. So here we can see the output. We have seen the output of our category performance table, right? That is getting displayed here also. We can download it from here if you would like to have. Now coming back to latest orders information, we'll check this one. See our complete data for orders information that is getting displayed here. Okay, so if we'll have second run, then this data will get overwritten, okay, with the new run. And if we'll check the historical data, I'll come back to this volume and this gold snapshots, okay, category performance. And now if we'll see here the folder which we saved it here, right? It is getting saved with run date and today's date. It is showing it here. Okay. If I'll come into this folder again it is showing for this date what was the runtime. That runtime is also getting displayed here for this respective folder name. Okay. So under this, I have my data. saved like this. Okay. Now coming back to again orders information. This one is historical orders information. Okay. If you'll see, folder name is run date and today's date. If I'll click on this, again I have one more folder in this with timestamp. Okay. Run date plus timestamp. If I'll click on this, I have files stored here. If I'll click on this file, you can see all of our data that is saved as a snapshot here. Okay. So this is how we are saving our data into the volumes using this logic. Okay. So now our next step is to update our gold control table. Okay. Okay, so here we are finding out the latest bronze ingestion timestamp that is present in the silver's order current state table. Okay, why are we doing this? Because gold uses silver as its source, and this timestamp, it will act as gold's new watermark. This means that gold has now consumed silver's data up to this timestamp. Okay, so for that we will utilize column which is bronze ingested at, and we will give alias for this as, let's say, mx, and from this we need to collect the latest one. Okay, you can give it here too. Okay, so now next we need to find the silver run ID associated with this latest silver watermark so that gold can trace exactly which silver batch is consumed. Okay, so for that we will have latest silver run ID equal to silver orders current. Here we will apply filter function and we'll check bronze ingested at date is equal to silver, latest silver timestamp TS, and we are going to find out the latest one. Okay, so for that this needs to be max of silver run ID alias mx, and we are going to pick the latest one. And if there is no latest timestamp available, if there is no latest TS, else none. Okay. And now we will use upsert function here. Upsert gold control. Here for orders information, it would be latest silver run ID, latest silver timestamp, and total count of our data frame, which is gold delta dot count. Okay. And now for the sake of understanding, we will display this. So here it needs to be comma. Upsert goal control in orders information. I need to save it. Latest silver run ID with latest silver. Okay. Timestamp and the count. Okay. Now display spark dot table, and we would like to display this processing control table. Okay. here we didn't give this condition correctly. If latest silver TS is not none, and if it is none, if this TS value we don't have any, then we will print it as none. So this needs to go under else statement. And this condition is for if statement, if this is not none. Okay. So this is how this function will work. Sorry, this code will work. Now let's run this code. See, now here it will display all the information. Layer is gold, entity name, orders information, then last process run ID, timestamp, rows merged, run status, gold run ID, updated at, and so on. So this is for orders information. If you would like to have, similarly, you can have it for category performance. Okay. So we can see that total 331 entries are merged till our business aggregations are done. Now let's try to insert some values in our Azure SQL database, and then we will check how these files are going to work. Okay. But before that, I have just remembered that under this branch, we need to push this gold work. Okay. So for this, let's say gold work completed, code running, successfully. Okay. Now let's click on commit and push. Okay. So this is my repository. Now we can see that here I got pull request for the code which we have pushed for the gold work here. Now I'll just click on compare and pull. You can check all the information. If you would like to add description and or change the description or title, then you can do it. Then click on create pull request. It states that we don't have any conflicts with the base branch. Now you can click on merge pull request, and then you can confirm merge. So now our merging is successful. Coming back to our gold work, I'll close this branch. And now we are going to insert few values in Azure SQL Database, and then we will run all these three files. And we are going to check if our incremental processing is working fine or not. We will mainly focus on these tables which we are displaying at the end of each work. Okay, so rows written, how many rows are getting written here or processed here, we are going to check those. Here this count needs to be for only new data which we are inserting. Okay, so now let's quickly insert those values into SQL database. Okay, so now before moving to Azure SQL database and insert new data, I was facing certain issues, and for that I have fixed my code in bronze and silver work. So I'll let you know about that. So what was happening when I was performing this incremental load, for in some cases, this last primary key was not coming as expected. And this rows written, that count was not getting displayed as expected. Okay, so for that I have done certain changes. So that change include this step 5, which we have already implemented for bronze incremental load. So in this, what I have done, under this for loop, after this, I have added this section of code. Okay. So what was happening when I was inserting or updating any kind of data, right, into SQL Server? So SQL Server timestamp that I was using, that had 100 nanosecond precision, and Python Delta has microsecond precision. Okay. So when the filter was pushed down to SQL Server, the sub microsecond residual, it causes this greater than to return true value, okay, for the timestamp that were functionally equal. Okay, so because of this, the data I was getting for the primary key or the rows merged, that was not coming properly. So for that, I have added this if statement, and here I'm checking if last successful TS is not none. Then I'm trying to divide that time by microseconds. Okay, so for this section, I have added this if statement. Once you do that, just below that section after this print statement, I have added this section, okay, where I'm truncating source timestamp to millisecond precision, okay. So for this, we need to add this section, okay. So here I'm trying to fix this source df with timestamp column, okay, and here I'm truncating my source with millisecond, okay. So for this, we need to add this section, okay. So once you are done with this, just below that, we had if statement, okay. So earlier we were having this if statement, and after this if statement, I was having this else statement directly, okay. So in this part, we need to add this part, okay. So after else statement, we need to add this if statement in this else statement, and this else statement would be for this if statement, okay. And here we are saying if this primary key is none, then we are adding certain condition where our timestamp column needs to be greater than our last successful timestamp, okay. So in certain situations, the control table might contain the timestamp, but the primary key may still have null value, okay, because of the previous run. So if we try to convert that null primary key to int, Spark will throw the error, okay. So because of that, this code was getting failed. So for that, I have added this as a safeguard. So once you add this section, just below that, we were having this section, okay, where we were calculating max TS and max PK. So for that part, we need to find the latest watermark row, okay, from the rows that were just loaded into bronze, okay. That was not getting properly read, and because of that, this count was getting messed up, okay. So instead of using exact timestamp equality, which can fail due to precision difference, we need to sort by timestamp and primary key to reliably find the newest record, okay. So for that, I have just commented this code which I was earlier using, and then I have added this code where I'm reading watermark now, and here I'm selecting with this select from the rows load. What I'm doing, I'm just selecting only the timestamp column and the primary key column, because we only need these to determine the watermark for the next incremental run, okay. So for that, we selected this timestamp and primary key, and then what we are doing, then we are sorting our records so that the newest timestamp will appear first. And if multiple rows share the same timestamp, then the row with the highest primary key, that will appear first. And this will ensure that we have correct ordering, okay, with the latest timestamp first, and afterwards with the highest primary key first when the timestamp matches, okay. So these were the changes which we need to do under the bronze work for step 5. Here under for loop, we need to add this section, then we need to add this section, and then under this if statement, we need to add this section, okay. So these three parts we need to add under this bronze work, okay. So once we are done with this, our bronze work will be able to function very correctly. Then for the silver work, here the same issue was occurring because silver is fetching the details from the bronze work, okay. So for that, what I have done here, if I'll go to this step, which one? Step 6, which is functioning for payments incremental processing, okay. So here we need to unpack last payment run ID, okay. So we need to add, earlier we were just reading payment INC and last payment ingested at, okay. So with this, we also need to read last payment run ID, okay. So once you read this, we are going to use that run ID, last run ID, here in the else section, okay. So instead of none, which we were reading here, instead of run, you need to change that none or replace that none with this last payments run ID, okay. So this fix you need to do under this payments incremental processing for step 6. Then going upward, exact similar thing which we need to do, just replace this none with last products run ID, okay. So earlier we did for payments run ID, now we need to fix our products code, okay. So for that, replace this none with last products run ID and read that last products run ID here, okay. Along with last product ingested at and product INC, we are going to read last products run ID, okay. So now payment is done, products is done. Now we need to fix this for orders too. Okay, so this step was this change for products was under step 5. Then if we'll come up again, similarly, instead of none, we are going to read last orders run ID. Okay, so this is going to come under orders incremental processing, which is step 4. Okay, so here also, along with orders inc and last orders ingested at, we are going to unpack last orders run ID too. Okay, so this is the fix which we need to do here. Till now, for the silver work, we have done 3 fixes: one for payments, another one for product, and third one for orders. Okay, and here we have unpacked this last orders run ID, last products run ID, and then last payments run ID. And that we are reading under this else statement, which is at the bottom of this code. Okay, here instead of none, we are reading this run ID. Now, if we'll come up here, okay, if you remember, we have created 4 helper functions here, right? So under these 4 helper sections, if you'll come to this function, get last processed bronze ingested at, here we were earlier only returning only one none. Okay, so now here we need to return 2 nuns. Okay, so this one, the first none will be for timestamp, and another none will be for run ID. Okay, and we need to declare both when there are no prior run exits. Okay, and similarly, earlier we were just reading run rows and last process bronze ingested at. Now we have added second none. We need to say comma, and we need to read that run ID also. So for that sake, we have added this code. Okay, so here we need to add one more none, and here we need to read that one more run. Okay, to get the newest record for that bronze run ID. So once you do that, this fix is for this helper function get last processed bronze ingested at, and then the fourth helper function, okay, get incremental bronze. Okay, so for this also we have added this last run ID. Okay, apart from this, if you'll see, we are reading here last run ID, which we are reading here. Then we need to mention that last run ID in this if statement, and in the return statement too, we need to return that last run ID. Okay, so these are the few changes which we need to do under silver work too. Okay, so once you do that, our code will be ready to go. Now I'll come down to this code because we need to check all the values which we have decided earlier to see. Okay, and here under the gold work, we need to check these rows. Okay, so as of now, if you'll see, we are done with our first run. Okay, which one was for initial load. Okay, so if you have created pipeline and we would have run that, we would have utilized that pipeline for that initial run, then these things would have happened in the backend. Okay, so for that sake, I have ran all the files manually so that you will get to know what's exactly happening with our code. Now, let's say suppose we are going to perform incremental load. Okay, so for that sake, what I'll do, I'm going to add 10 rows or 10 values each for each of the table. Okay, that would be products, orders, and payments. And for the better understanding, I'm going to add all these values, and those values will be clean values. Okay, there is not going to be any messy data. Now our query has been succeeded. We'll come back to our code. Now we will first run our bronze work manually. Okay, so I'll just click on run all. So ideally here rows return that needs to be 10 for each table. Okay, and here last successful primary key that needs to be this. So for the products, last successful run ID primary key needs to be 1130. For orders, it needs to be 200,510, and for the payments, it needs to be 900,440. Okay, so these are the entries which we are expecting when we are done with running our bronze work. So here if you'll see, our rows return are 10. Our last TS is successfully filled. Run status is success, updated at we are getting value. Here we are getting value. And primary key, let's check. For the products, it's need to be 1130. Then the next one is order ID. It needs to be 200,510. And then for payments, it needs to be 900,440. 900 440. This means that our bronze incremental processing, which is the code which we have applied, that is functioning as expected. Okay. So now we are going to run our silver work. Okay, where this code will perform cleaning and transformation on these 10 values which we have read under this bronze work. Okay. Now I'll click on run all. Now let's wait till our code reaches to this last step. So here if you'll see, rows merged are 10, which are as expected, because I have told you that whatever data which we have inserted under this SQL database, that was clean data, right? So there was no possibility of any data or any row getting dropped here. Okay. So here rows merged 10. That means that our silver work has performed or utilized only these 10 rows, and it has performed data cleaning and transformation part. And if you will see here, this is the replication of our table, which is products transformed, orders transformed, and payments transformed. And here if you'll see, our count, it got increased by 10 for each of the table. Okay. So this count was earlier, I think 435, and this one minus 10, this one minus 10. So it had just added those 10 entries into our main table. Okay. But our code has worked only on these 10 values. Okay. And then it has added those 10 values into our table where we have all the data intact. So this is how this is how silver functions. Now moving on to gold work, I'm going to run all. Okay, so now our gold work file has been run successfully, and now here you can see that all the information is getting filled here as expected, and number of rows merged are 10, which is as expected because these all 30 records, those are linked with each other. The primary key of first is related to the product table here, and for payment table too. So these all 10 values are interlinked with each other. So one primary key is treated as foreign key into another table. So here 10 count was as expected. So this means that whatever code we have written under this gold file, that is working as expected, and all these bronze, silver, and gold, all these files are processing only new data, and then we are storing those new data into our delta tables. Okay, so now coming to our volume. This is my gold schema, and under this gold schema we have 4 tables and 1 volume which we have created to store our data. Okay, so if I click on my volume, so if you remember, we have created 2 folders here. One was for latest snapshot of our data, and another was to save all the data for all the runs as a part of history. Okay, so now if I'll click on gold latest, let's check for orders information table. So here if you'll see, these are many runs because in the while not recording this video, I have ran the files multiple times because I was getting that issue, right? So these are the files which is the output of our latest run. So if I'll click on this, so these are the 10 new values, okay, or 10 inserted values, which I told you that that 10 inserted values, that snapshot is getting represented here. Okay, so if I'll click on another file here, so these are the data which I ran before that for the full load. Okay, so that data we are getting here, and then we have inserted 10 new values. That data is getting displayed in this snapshot. Okay, so this one is for storing the latest one. Now if I'll come back to this gold snapshots, I'll go to orders information. So under 14th of March, I'll check the record. So here you can see that all the runs which I have done for today's date. So this one is our latest run. So if I'll click on this, again 2 files, I'll get it here. So if I'll click on one, this is the full load which I have done earlier. So that data that is getting displayed here. And then if I'll click on this, This is the incremental load, okay? And that snapshot is getting displayed here, okay? So this is how this storing information or storing snapshot under volume seems like. Now let's move ahead and check how our SCD2 functions, or SCD2, if SCD2 code which we have written is working fine or not. So for that, I'm going to utilize this order ID, okay? Let's say suppose this order ID 20002. For that, let's say suppose my order status is placed, okay? Now what we will do, we will change this order status to failed from Azure SQL Database, and afterwards we will run all the bronze, silver and gold work, okay? And lastly, we will check if we are getting two entries here or not under this SCD2 functionality. Okay, so now I'm into Azure SQL Database. Here, as mentioned, we are going to change order status to failed. And here you need to make sure that you are also updated at date, okay? That needs to be system date time. That means it will be your current time at which you are going to update this record, okay? So quickly I'll run this. So query succeeded. Coming back to our work, we will run all our bronze work. So now here you will see for orders data, it shows rows merged 1, and for the products and payments we don't have any value to merge, so that count is getting displayed as 0. And here our primary key for which we have updated the data, it was 24 times 0 2. That primary key is getting displayed here, okay? So now once we are done with this bronze work, let's quickly run our silver work. Here also we can see that for orders it has merged one entry only. Now we'll come back to gold work. This is where we need to check if this select query gives us two rows or not, okay? So I'll click on run all. Okay, so now let's cross verify our output. So this one was our order ID, and earlier order status was placed, and this one which we have updated to failed, okay? So this means that this one is our new entry and this one is our old entry, and this old entry needs to be marked as expired, okay, or is current is equal to false. So if you'll come here you can see that this entry was valid from 1st of February till today's date, which is 14th of March, okay? And its current flag has been set to false. Earlier it was true, now it has been changed to false. And this new entry, it is valid from today's date, which is 14th of March, and till valid to this entry is null because it is valid till this is still valid, okay? It needs to be marked as true because this is current flag is true, because this indicates that right now for the order ID, this one is the correct, or this one is the current value and this one is the expired value. This means that earlier till 14th of March the order status was placed, and on 14th of March it has changed to failed, and till then it is failed only, okay? So this is how this SCD2 function works, and the code which we have implemented as a part of SCD2 under this gold work, that is functioning as expected, okay? So this means that whatever we have implemented, whatever we have discussed earlier in the earlier in this project, and which we have implemented under these three files, those all things are working as expected. Now once we are done with this coding part, the next step of this project is to create BI dashboard. Once we are done with this BI dashboards and we will publish it, then we will see how we can create legacy alert. Once we create that alert, then we will utilize this jobs part, okay, under this jobs and pipeline, and we'll see how we can orchestrate all of these files, dashboard and alert under these jobs, and how it can trigger the notification on our given email address, okay? So now let's quickly move to dashboards and let's start with creating one. So if we'll come to this dashboard under SQL, this is how this section looks like. You can click on this create dashboard, or you can click on this create dashboard, okay? So once I'll click on create dashboard, here you can give name to your dashboard. Okay, so let's say suppose I'll say Novacart dashboard. Under this dashboard, you can have multiple pages. So this will be our first page. I'll say just, okay, page 1. So here you can apply global filter, which will get implemented to all of your charts, which you can add it here. Okay. So as of now, I'll just minimize this section. I'll just minimize this main section also. So now first thing is that we need to add data to create the dashboards. Okay. So I'll click on this data part. You can add datasets from SQL, you can add the data source, and you can upload the files too. Okay. So right now we already have sources to add this dataset. Okay. So I'll click on this add data source. Here it will give you all the catalogs. Under those catalogs, if you'll click on this, it will show you all the schemas, tables, everything here. So our catalog was this one. Data to Crunch, Novacart, ADB. Under this, we had gold schema. So let's say suppose I'll select this orders information and category performance datasets for our BI dashboards creation. So once you click on these tables which are required to create these dashboards, click on confirm. So now if you'll see, our dataset is getting loaded and the respective SQL query that has also got created here, and that has also got executed. Okay. So if you'll check for orders information, you can see your data, or you can have preview of your data here. Right now, by default, select star from has been executed to view all the data, but you can manipulate or you can change this query as you want. So now our data has been loaded now. Now I'll click on page 1 and we'll start creating our dashboard. Okay. So I'm not going to spend much of the time here, but let's try to see which things we can add. So let's say add text box. I'll add this text box here. Let's say I'll add some data or text in this. You can change the font or anything. You can change the font, you can change the type, you can change the color. What's happening? Okay. You can change the alignment. Okay, so this is how you can create the text box. You can change the alignment of this box too if you want. Then let's say suppose we need to add a visualization here. Okay. So visualization. So let's add the chart or bar chart for total orders per category. Okay, so you can add that information from here too. If you would like to have title or something, you can add it from here. Here we have this AI helper function. Okay, so this helper function also can help us out to create bar chart. Okay, let's say suppose we'll say create a bar chart to show total orders per category. Now let's see. If you'll see here, it has given us information about this. Okay. So from here you can change or add anything if you would like to have. Description if you want to give, you can give it from here. Then bar chart category. Here it is giving sum of total orders. If you would like to change the color of any bar, then you can change it from here. You can add labels are already given. Tooltip, facet, annotation. So if you want to change any information from here, you can change it from here too. Okay. So now let's say we will add one more chart. So now here I'll say I would like to display only total orders, okay? So instead of bar chart, I'll have a counter. So it will show you how many total orders you have like this, okay? Now let's say I'll add one more counter here. Okay, let's add one more too. I think I have done some mistake. Okay. So this needs to be above this. So now I need to add one more here. Okay, let's say suppose here we will add total paid amount. Here visualization, again I'll give counter. It shows value, comparison, description. So if you'd like to change anything, you can change it from here, okay? Now let's say, let's add gross merchandise value here. Again, it's up to you which things do you want into your dashboard. It's just for the sake of understanding and to create dashboard. It's not necessary that you need to create like this only. You can have your own dashboard too, okay? Now let's say I don't know how to arrange this now. Okay, let's maximize this. Okay, now let's say we'll add one more chart here. We'll say we'll have pie chart, okay? Here we'll say average payment completion ratio per category. So this is how our pie chart gets displayed. Now let's add one more. Here maybe we will take line chart, okay? Here we will say gross merchandise value per category. Okay, so this is how our gross value will get displayed according to each category, okay? So now this is how our dashboard looks like. Again, you are free to create your own dashboard. This is for the sake of understanding and just for the example. Now it is necessary to publish this dashboard, okay? Otherwise this dashboard will not be visible when you create your pipeline. So click on publish, share data permission, click on publish. Now it says that our our dashboard has been published, okay? So once we are done with this dashboard creation, Now our next part is to create alert. Okay, so for that, under this SQL section, come to the alerts. Here we have this new alert section coming, and this is under preview. We have legacy alerts too. So as of now, we will create the legacy alerts. Okay, so click on this create legacy alert. Here we need to give alert name. Let's say Nova card alert. And here we need to mention query, okay? But we don't have any query as of now written. So for that, we will go back to SQL editor. Here we need to write SQL query. Make sure to select correct catalog and schema. Here we need to select cold schema, okay? Okay, so now we will have this SQL query, okay, where we will check total distinct count of orders. We will run this SQL query. Okay, so now it says that our total count is 341. Okay, now we need to make sure that we are saving this query. So click on save. I'll save this under this case study. Before this, we need to give name to this alert. Okay, so let's say I'll say Nova card alert query. Okay, and then we will save it. Click on save, query saved. Okay, now we need to move back to alerts. Again, click create alert. I think, yeah, so I clicked on this create alert, which is under this new alert which is coming. So if you'll click here, it will directly navigate you to the SQL query editor where you can write your code, okay? But in case of legacy alert, you first need to write that alert into SQL query editor. You need to save it and then you need to fetch that query here, okay? So that's the difference which seems under this legacy alert and new alert. So as of now, we are going with this legacy alert. So click on create legacy alert. Let's say Nova cart alert and query. Now here you will see this query is getting displayed, okay? So click on that. So now once it will load this query, it will take the value of your respective column on which you have set that alert. So here what we will say, if this count of order ID, which is the first row, is greater than, let's say suppose now in our case it was around 340, right? So to understand or to trigger this alert, let's say if this total ID count gets exceeded than 300, so 300 will be our threshold value. If that value will be greater than this threshold value, then we are going to trigger this alert. So if query result has no error, then you can set the status unknown, triggered, or okay, whichever you want. Then notifications, when alert is triggered, send notification. How many times you would like to have this notification? So just once. Each time alert is evaluated, at most every. So in this way you can set it. As of now we will keep it as just once, okay? And it will say send me the send notification. We will click on send notification, okay? So here under the templates you have two options. You can either use the default template given by Databricks or you can customize this template, okay? So let's say suppose if we'll click on customize template, then we can create subject and body of this body of that email. So let's say I'll say order count exceeded, okay? So I'll say hi team or any person. I'll say kindly check the total orders for your e-commerce Nova cart case study, as it has exceeded the threshold value set by the team. Okay. Regards XYZ. If you'll click on this preview, I was expecting preview here, but let it be. So now we will click on this create legacy alert. Okay, so now this alert has been set. It will show you all the information. You will still have the liberty to change or edit this alert. You can share this alert too. Refresh also. You can delete it also. You can clone this alert. You can move this alert to different location or different folder. So you have all the liberty and all the flexibility which you can change it from here. Okay. Now we are done with alert creation also. Now we are going to create a job which will orchestrate all of our work. Okay. So for that, here you can click on jobs and pipeline. So now first I'll minimize this part. Here you need to click on jobs. Okay. Click on this. Now we are going to add everything here. So let's change the name of our job. We'll say NovaCart case study job. Okay. So first you need to add your task. Okay. So first our task which we will be adding, that will be our bronze work. So I'll click on notebook. Here give your task name. Let's say suppose bronze work. Type is notebook only. Source workspace. You have the option of Git provider also. As of now, keep it to the workspace. Path. Now under the repos case study, where it has gone, under the users. Okay, here NovaCart case study. Bronze work. Click on confirm. Computer, sorry, not computer, it's compute. Compute, it will be serverless. Environment, notebook environment. Parameters, we don't have any, so we are not going to set anything here. Notification. So you will have two options to set notification. If you would like to set a notification for any particular task, you can set it from here. Otherwise, if you would like to set a notification for a complete job, you can set it from this section. Okay. So as of now, we will keep it as it is. What we will do, we will set the notification for the complete job. Okay. So now this one will be our first task. So click on create task. Now we are going to add another task. Again, it would be notebook. I'll say silver work. Notebook workspace path would be this one, and we are going to select this silver work. Click on confirm. Compute serverless. Now you can see that it depends on, and here bronze work is there. This means that once bronze work file gets succeeded, then only this silver work will start running. Okay. And run if dependencies all succeeded. This means that bronze work needs to be succeeded in order to run this silver work. Again, the rest of the things are okay. Click on create task. So now we will click on again add task. Again, it would be notebook. Let's say gold work, type notebook, path, select your file, click on confirm. Now here you can see it depends on silver. So silver needs to be succeeded in order to run this gold work. Okay. So this is the situation which is getting displayed here. Now click on create task. Okay, so these are our 3 tasks. Now we are going to add our dashboard here. Okay, so add a task, click on this dashboard. Here the name would be dashboard. Select your dashboard from here. SQL warehouse, we are going to select serverless starter warehouse. Subscribers, you can add subscribers if you would like to visualize BI dashboard from here. If you don't want it, you can just remove your name from here. Okay, depends on gold work and this needs to be successful. Okay, save task. So we are left with our alert. Okay, add task. Here click on SQL alert. Say from here, now you can see that the alert which we have created, right, that will get displayed here in this list. So click on that. Automatically SQL Server will be serverless. You can add subscribers here. Dashboard, it depends on dashboard. Notification, retries. Okay, so we'll click on create task. So this is how my complete workflow looks like. Now, before running this, I'm going to set permissions. We don't need notifications. Click on notifications here or edit notifications. Here, add notifications. Enter your email address. When you would like to trigger that notification, it would be either start, success, failure. If you get any warning, then. So as of now, in our case, let's say once it gets started or success or fail, then we will trigger this notification. Okay. So click on save. We don't have any parameters, so no, we are not going to add anything here. You have schedules and triggers options also. You can schedule this pipeline at particular time. But in our case, we are going to trigger it manually by clicking on this run now. Okay. So now let's quickly add few more entries into our Azure SQL database here, and we'll check how it will function. So I have added few more entries, 30 entries I have added, 10 for each table. So now quickly run these insert values in Azure SQL database. Okay, so now query is succeeded. Coming back to Databricks, we are going to run this pipeline manually. Okay, so click on run now. So we can see that triggered run in performance. So our pipeline has been triggered. So under this task section, you can see all the tasks connected to each other. So if we'll come to this runs, you can see here exactly what is running right now. Okay. So if you'll see here, bronze work that is getting running right now, we'll hover over on this. It will set that status is running, how much time or duration it is taking, who has run that, who has started it, what's its unique job run ID, job ID, task run ID. Then similarly, for the second one, it will also get shown. Here you can see that status is blocked because we have added the dependencies as silver work depends on the bronze work. Okay. Similarly, for the gold, you can see all the information, dashboard, Nova Cart alert, you can see all the things. But as each of these tasks is dependent on the previous one, all these are blocked and it will not get started running unless the previous one gets successful. So the overall information of your pipeline that will get also shown here. Start time, what's the run ID for your complete job, how it is launched. In our case, we have triggered it manually, so it is showing the status as manually. Duration, you can see it here. Status, it is still in running phase. From here, you can see job details, ID, creator, run as, description, lineage, performance optimized. It is on for our job. Schedules, triggers, parameters, every information that will get displayed here. Okay. So as of now, if you'll see here, bronze work, if you'll hover over on this, the the status is succeeded. That means that bronze work has worked as expected. If you'll click on this job run ID, then it will show you in this form, okay, in the graph form. If you'll see here, it is complete green. This is in progress. Now it has been completed. Now gold work has started working or progressing, okay. If you'll click on timeline, it will show all the timelines. Bronze work has taken 1 minute 7 seconds. Afterwards, silver has started and taken 55.2 seconds. Now gold is at 21.9 seconds. Next are blocked as of now. If you will click on list, it will show you all the information like this. So where are these resources stored as of now? Depends on what duration, how much of time it has taken, what's the status right now. So this information will get displayed here, and you can filter all of your information from here also, status and type, okay, notebook, dashboard, and SQL. You can cancel your job run if you want. In certain cases, you need to cancel it. You can click on this also. So now we can see that gold is also completed. Now it is working on our dashboard. Coming back to our main job. So overall time right now is 3 minutes 26 seconds. Now let's wait till it gets completed. Here under the lineage, it will show you that it has 18 upstream tables and 18 downstream tables. You have the option to cancel the run from here also. Okay, so now we can see that we are at the last stage where alert is getting run, and in this way our job is success. Okay. Now we are expecting emails to trigger. So if you'll see here, Azure, you can see that workspace, job, run ID, started at launched. It is for the start status, okay? This one is for run. After it gets successful, it will send you one mail where you can see the status of your pipeline. This one was for subscription. I was expecting alert. I don't know why am I not receiving that. Okay, so alert, it went on my another email address. So because at that time it has taken the by default email address with which I have logged in to my Azure account. Okay. So if you'll see here, if I'll click on this mail, now here you can see that, see, we have set this, right? We have customized our format. So in this we have written this alert count, order count exceeded. You are receiving this email. Okay. Here we have mentioned Nova Cart alert. Hi team, kindly check the total orders for your company as it has exceeded a threshold value set by the team. Okay. So in this way, it will trigger an alert when that particular value will exceed the threshold value. Okay. So this is how this alert customized notification looks like. Coming back to so in this way our job has been successfully executed, and this is how you can orchestrate your workflow. Okay. In this way we came to the end of our project. So there is one more thing. So if you get stuck at a coding part, or if you are facing any bug, or if you are not getting any output as expected, then there is Databricks Assistant that will help you out, and it is way more helpful than we are expecting. So if you'll ask any type of question about your project, it will probably go in the backend. It will search for all of your metadata that gets stored under Unity catalog for our respective project, and it will show you all the suggestions, and it will give you all the suggestions which would be helpful to resolve your queries. Okay, so if you are getting stuck at anything, just feel free to take the help from Databricks Assistant. Okay, so in this way we have done our project. So our data was into Azure SQL Database. Then we accessed our database from Azure Databricks with the help of Databricks Lakehouse Federation. Okay, so for that we have created connections. We have assigned user ID and passwords for the same. Then once we accessed that data, we stored that data for our sake of understanding into bronze layer. Okay, then our complete raw data was into bronze layer. Afterwards, we have performed data cleaning and transformation under silver layer. Then we have performed some data enrichment. Then we have performed data joining. Then we have implemented manual tracking, manual CD2 implementation for historical tracking. Then we have performed certain business aggregations, and all those things we have done under gold layer. Okay, and while writing all this code for bronze, silver and gold, we made sure that we are reading our data incrementally. So once we load our data fully, next time if I get a new data from this database in the form of table, I made sure that I'm just reading only new data using the logic under these files. Okay, and all these files I have created under Databricks repos, and I took the help of Unity Catalog and Delta Lake. Okay, afterwards I can't say afterwards, at the same time I have linked my GitHub to Azure Databricks, and I have pushed all of my code which I have done here in the GitHub account, so that if I have another team members in my team, they will be able to access all of my new modified data, and they can pull that file, updated code into their system, and they can work on that updated files. Okay, so for that we have connected and integrated Azure Databricks with GitHub. So once we are done with these files creation, we created dashboard. So we took the help of inbuilt dashboards which is given by Databricks, and there we pulled the data from this gold layer. We have created 4 to 5 dashboards over there. Then we published our dashboard. After publishing that dashboard, we have created or set one alert on total count of order ID, and if that exceeds, then we have set one email address. On that we saw that how we get the notification for our customized email format. Okay, so once we are done with these files creation under Databricks repos, BI dashboards, triggers, integration with GitHub, then we have implemented jobs. In that jobs, we have created many tasks. So first task was for bronze, second task one was for silver, then third one was for gold. Then afterwards we have connected our published dashboard, then we have connected our alert, and then we triggered our job manually. Okay, and for that we have set the notification for our respective email address, and we saw that how it triggers emails and how it looks by checking those emails. Okay, so this is how our complete project looks like. So if you have liked this video, please subscribe and like and share this video so that other people also will get this knowledge which I have shared with you. And please feel free to ask any questions if you are stuck at any point. Okay, till then, keep crunching the data and see you in the next project.